Welcome everybody. We are going to present you today our preliminary work and data work and results for predicting unemployment rate in Turkey with Turkish data using Google Trends application. The story arises from the fact that most macroeconomic statistics data are reported with a lag. As you know, GDP quarterly GDP data, economic growth data is released with 1 quarter lag, 3 months. In April you get in March you get the results from the last quarter of the previous year. Inflation comes with a 1 month lag. Just 3 days ago we got the inflation from March. And unemployment also, they use a moving average sort of method. So they take 3 months average of previous quarters unemployment data. 3 months ago, I think this month they're going to release the unemployment of January. Exactly, and using this, difference, the time lag between the actual rates, actual data, and the official statistics, some researchers, starting with Halvarian, most of you are familiar with his advanced microeconomics book. He started his position in Google a while ago, like 10 years ago, and using the Google data, they started this research program of so-called nowcasting. They don't call it forecasting, but nowcasting, or predicting the present by the Google searches, or some private companies. Data such as MasterCard, FedEx, and other such companies. With MasterCard and Visa, you get the almost daily or like hourly transactions made. You can follow the fluctuations observing their data. With FedEx, you can follow the orders, online orders, how they fluctuate over time. And with Google, as you can tell, everybody nowadays uses Google to search for almost anything, which we will show you soon. And using these sort of data, you can forecast near-term values, which are usually officially reported, months or weeks later. And with the involvement of Halvarian, Google started this app called Google Trends. If you just Google it and click, you can start using the internet. It looks like this, if you search for in Google Trends, not in Google search bar, in Google Trends, if you search for in Turkish Mart ayı enflasyonu, you get the frequency, how frequently this exact term, Mart ayı enflasyonu, has been searched over time. Like you can set the time, like for this one, I set the time frame to 1 day, yesterday, 3 days ago. And you see that in the morning of April the 3rd, which the TÜİK officially releases the inflation results, you see the peak there, and then it goes down. And if you extend the time period and search for other stuff like Galatasaray or some sports events or something, you can follow the how the frequency changes over time. But this is not a level. I mean, let me talk about how the data is constructed here. It's an index between 0 and 100. If you look at on the y-axis, you see 100 as the highest value. And what it does is, I don't know the exact reason, but we can make guesses about it. Whichever day or whichever hour, depending on the time period, has the highest amount of search, like the number one crowded, number one busiest time, gets 100, and the lowest one gets 0, and everything in between is weighted, accordingly. So it's an index between 100 and 0. So that's what you get. And obviously, as you change the time schedule, the index changes, because if you extend the time period, and as you extend it with the new time, if you have a higher value than this one, for instance, then this becomes not a peak, but somewhere in the middle, and you get a new peak. So just so you know this difference, if you are going to play around with this Google Trends data. So in the literature, it's a rather small one and a rather new one, obviously. But probably the most critical work starts with variant and choice article, brief, like 7-page article in 2011. They use Google Trends data and they predict consumer confidence. So consumer confidence is reported by the official government institutions, but again with a lag. So they use consumer confidence as the dependent variable, and the explanatory variables, they are trying to relate it using the Google Trends data, is crime and justice category. So under Google search, you have categories like crime and justice is one category, trucks and SUVs is another one, hybrid and alternative vehicles another one. So they use the searches under these categories to predict consumer confidence, and then they check their prediction with the released data, and obviously they find quite high, quite good fits here. A second one they checked was travel in Hong Kong. Under the travel category, you get this, monthly visitors. The tourism agencies report this, and in Google search we have this vacation destinations, and under vacation destinations, these categories are something Google uses for itself to split between and get together the searches. So under vacation destinations, they choose Hong Kong. As you are searching like tickets or destinations or places, summer vacation places, etc. in Google, you get this index, Google Trends index data, and they fit it with the travel statistics officially released, but with a lag, obviously. So the more searches you have, you would expect the more travel plans to Hong Kong, and they get, you know, like 0.90 something correlation coefficients. And finally, and this is the one we are trying to relate our work, in the United States, when someone becomes unemployed, they make initial claims for unemployment benefit, and this is also a officially released figure. I think we also have it in İşkur, but not as popular as it is in the United States here. So when you become unemployed, you start searching for, you know, jobs. You start searching for, you know, welfare, social services, etc. And they, Choi and Varian or Google, collects this and tries to, you know, find a relationship between the actual initial claims and the Google Trends data. And again, they find very high correlations here. Apart from Varian and Choi's work, in Italy, Naccarato et al. Tried to forecast the Italian youth unemployment rate using Google Trends data. And I mean, although Varian and Choi's model was a very simple one, using autoregressive models and, you know, simple correlation and simple regressions, Naccarato et al. Uses a more advanced forecasting model, and they forecast with a good fit Italian youth unemployment. And that's what I'm gonna show you as well. Like in Turkey, we also get very high correlation results with youth unemployment rate, or better fits with youth unemployment rate than the aggregate, than the overall. Probably the reason they also chose youth unemployment rate instead of aggregate unemployment rate is that they get a better fit, and the reason is young people probably when they get unemployed use internet services or Google more than the elderly. That is why we get better, you know, predictions here. Nagao, Takeda, and Tanaka, again using Google Trends data, they now cast US unemployment rate, and they get, again using more advanced methods than Choi and Varian, they find better results, improved predictions, comparing it to the conventional, you know, simple autoregressive models. These, I mean, there are a few more, you know, in France, in Germany, in Japan, and other countries, but there is no paper or there is no work that I know of that I could find for the case of Turkey. So if we can finalize this, it will be the first paper using Turkish data to, you know, predict macroeconomic indicators using Google Trends. I mean, it started my at least preliminary curiosity. Earlier curiosity started with iş bulma duası. So, I mean, as you can see, the orange one is the Google Trends data on the left axis, Y axis, the primary axis on the left-hand side, and the blue one is the seasonally adjusted, mevsimsel etkilerden arındırılmış MEA, seasonally adjusted unemployment rate. And the correlation here is about 0.72 or something, quite high. And that, like, I also checked. So when conservative people get unemployed, they use Google to, you know, search for iş bulma duası, and the same results hold true for dolar duası and euro duası. So when the exchange rate, you know, goes up, dolar bulma duası goes up. When it goes down, sorry, not dolar bulma, dolar duası. They also have variations like dolar düşürme duası, altın duası, and one final one was faiz haram mı? So faiz haram mı search also gives a very high correlation with the interest rate. As interest rate goes high, faiz haram mı searches goes high. As it goes down, it goes down. So I mean, it's funny, but like, how can we, like, what can we do with all these? And I started to talk with Özden Hoca, and following, you know, the previous literature, we tried to use more, you know, more serious searches like işsizlik maaşı instead of iş bulma duası. And the blue one here is işsizlik maaşı searches, queries in Google. And I mean, it's straightforward, right? I mean, as işsizlik maaşı searches go up, unemployment rate goes up. They follow a similar trend. But the thing is, you get the unemployment statistics 3 months later, but as soon as one person becomes unemployed, or even maybe before he or she becomes unemployed, they start searching for işsizlik maaşı. So when you get them together, you get a very nice fit here. We also tried İşkur, but the fit was not as good for some reason. Maybe we can discuss. And using these, you know, 3 data, I mean, we had more actually, but these were the better ones to show you. Then we tried to use some, you know, recently very popular techniques, such as machine learning.
Okay, I can go on if you like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So you didn't mention the story about correlate, so let me bring that in.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, our choice of these keywords have been somewhat ad hoc. We wanted to use Google Correlate to see what keyword searches are most correlated with unemployment. But the correlate function was discontinued, so we couldn't go there. And so we just picked these 3 keywords, and we are open to suggestions as to what more keywords may be relevant. And this could have been done in a very, very conventional, very simple way, but I had an interest in learning machine learning. So it's like a learning experience for me, because it has been very popular lately. Regression is only one part of the story. You can do a lot of things using machine learning algorithms. So I made this an opportunity to explore and learn some code, how to handle R. There are a couple of packages that do this very nicely in R. Caret and Caret forecast is one. And then there's the E1071 is another package. Can we move on to the next slide? This is a very technical subject, obviously. It's beyond the mathematical capabilities of your typical economist. So we can't really discuss the underlying mathematics of how this support vector regression or any other of the machine learning techniques are actually derived and how they are coded, etc. But I will try to give some intuition. And I personally, being so much less than a mathematician, I was able to use the packages to get some results. The mastery comes with trial. So let me tell you what this support vector regression does if we move up a bit. Typically, this is what Choi and Varian did as well. OLS would be a minimization of the sum of squared errors. So here I have this minimization of the sum of the square of the difference between the actual y values and the estimated y values with coefficients w. When you do support vector regression, the story is totally different. We are not trying to minimize the sum of squared errors. We are able to dictate the margin of error. I will be deciding how much error I will allow in the system. And I will also tell the algorithm how big the distance between the non-conforming data points and the regression line is allowed to be. So these two parameters are the determinants of what we are doing. And the choice of these parameters is important and quite complex. It requires experience. This is called tuning. I did not go there yet. I use the defaults in my work. So when you do the support vector regression, you are minimizing this function of the coefficients and the C, which is the deviance allowed for non-conforming observations. C is the parameter associated with that distance. And the error is dictated by the designer, by us. So I'm putting it in as a constraint. So this is the mathematics. Of course, it gets very complex when you have a multiple regression setting. So here is a visual interpretation, which is the most intuitive one. So we have these blue data points. We are trying to get the regression line, the red line, and I'm deciding how far this error of margin, the gray lines, are going to be. Of course, some of the observations will fall outside. I am also deciding how far outside are they allowed to be. So this is the procedure. And if you check a standard econometrics book and see how OLS handles this question, you can more readily see the differences. Now the thing, we can move up. The thing about these techniques is it's not like your standard regression output. It's not going to give you coefficients and results and diagnostics, etc. It doesn't produce a linear model. In fact, you can decide on what sort of results you want to, what sort of model you want to get. Again, I used the default, which was a linear default. I did two things here, both with support vector regression. One was using the correct forecast package. I used the autoregressive model to now cast the last 25 observations of our data period. We have data from 2011 January to 2020 January. I used observations up to December 2017 to produce the model. And then I used the model to forecast the remaining 25 values for unemployment. This was an autoregressive model of order 6, estimated using support vector techniques. And you can see when you do an autoregressive model, the predictions, these gray parts, these gray values are way off. It does capture the general trend, but it doesn't really, get the frequencies, etc. So this is increasing and this is just flatlining. So autoregressive support vector regression for unemployment was not precise enough. And this is the literature, in fact, for macroeconomic variables and for long horizons. These autoregressive type of machine learning algorithms, they don't do well. The second thing I tried was, if we move on to the second slide, I used iş bulma duası, işsizlik maaşı, and işkur as explanatory variables in a multiple regression format, again using the support vector algorithm. And now the yellow ones are the predicted values, and blue ones are the actual data. And you can see that the fit is great, really good. Maybe I could have even dropped işkur. It could have been better if I dropped işkur, but actually I didn't have the time to work on a lot of variations there. So what we get out of this at this point is that the idea of relating Google Trends searches with macroeconomic data is a valid one. It has potential in terms of forecast abilities. And the second thing we have learned from this is using machine learning techniques instead of conventional econometrics is not that difficult, and it does give you good results. There are procedures for checking the accuracy, etc., you know, at some after work, but I didn't get the code to do those yet. I'm working on it. So we have just the results now. So this is a start for a nice little paper that incorporates some up-to-date trends in macroeconometric research, if you will. What we want to do now is to elaborate. If we move on to the next slide, I presented some points that can be elaborated further. Can we move down, Anıl? This tuning business, so picking the right parameters to get a smoother fit, is one thing that I will be working on. Support vector regression is not the only machine learning method. There are alternative procedures. I can try some of these, and I can also try some conventional econometric time series methods and see which one performs best. Of course, we can extend this discussion to male, female, and youth unemployment rates. Another thing I didn't put there, because this trends, you know, lag and the correlation with trends data is there already. We can do it for inflation, and we can do it for the interest rate, so create some variety from there. So we are at this stage of putting together work with these components, and we are totally open to suggestions if you have any. I give it back to Anıl now.
Yeah, I mean, finally, I can say that we get the nicest results with youth unemployment rates, then female, and then male. For some reason, female searches made by females give us a better fit compared to searches made by males. I mean, we can
they find the better keywords, I guess.
Or, I mean, as a male, when you get unemployed or about to get unemployed, males might be using their, you know, social network, business networks, like calling someone to get, but females maybe staying at home more, you know, they tend to use their cell phone. I don't know, like, it's just a speculation. And obviously young people use internet services more frequently and more effectively, efficiently than the elderly. So that was my guess, but not sure. Maybe you guys have ideas or suggestions for us here regarding anything regarding the data method or, you know, ways ahead. And let's finish here and get your questions, comments, observations. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Okay, well, can I take some words? Who is chairing this session? I don't know, Anıl.
Anıl now,
Sure.
he's the chair for seminars now. I gave up that job.
Or Özden. Certainly, it's very interesting indicators. When I found that the main cause of bad fits are stem from mainly from non-conservatives and atheists. I think if there's number increases in the society, then your model collapses, I think. Because
But we have işsizlik maaşı, please. I made sure it's not only about the prayer.
And how many people goes for işsizlik duası? That would be certain to me or Anıl, I guess, but I'm not quite sure Özden would go for işsizlik duası. And this may change from time to time as well. You know, if you have a very conservative and very religious stimulating environment as we have now in Turkey, it's likely to get these as a good indicator. But if trend changes, then your indicators may not be that creating that good fit anymore. And from country to country, obviously, it changes as well. So it is not a universal.
In fact, we can explore it. I can
indicator for different religion or different countries.
I can actually, what I can do is I can put in these explanatory variables one by one, and then we can see if it's the prayer or the more secular keyword that is a better fit for Turkey. So we can speculate about that as well.
That's right. Okay.
So also Google Trends allows us to download the data city by city. But the problem is that if the level frequency of the data is not above a certain threshold, then it doesn't give us any, data point for Burdur. I don't know, like for Ardahan. If there are only a few searches, then you don't even get to see those searches. So it must be above a certain level for you to get a data. So when you break it down to cities, maybe it works in the United States, in the scale of United States, but not in Turkey. But
what we can do is we can use the NUTS 2 regions. So it's never a single city. It's a bunch of cities. So we will be above the threshold possibly. We can work on that. I did not know about this part of the story.
Yeah, certainly.
Then we can check. I mean, some regions, some cities more secular, some less.
Well, I will be looking forward to see the end of this research. It will be certainly.
If we do all of these, then it's going to take a couple of years.
Okay.
Actually, it is very interesting. Can you show the graph again, Anıl?
Which?
The işsizlik duası and the what is unemployment? Sorry. Yeah, over here. There are some misalignments over here in 2015 between in 2016, something like that. Maybe I don't know. It's so new for me. I don't know the approach. I don't know the methodology, but maybe you can apply some time variant causality between all these two, and within these time periods, if there is something different in this country because of maybe you can explain some things with the aid of this misalignment between iş bulma duası and the işsizlik.
Now the lag here is the official declaration of the unemployment rate is always after the unemployed person has done the search. So that's not going to synchronize, and that not synchronizing is kind of helping us do the prediction in a certain way. Okay. So so, you know, like the over in 2017, the yellow one is higher than the blue one, meaning it is leading. It is, pardon me, lagging, and then in other periods it's leading. So it's due to the gap that they are not on top of each other. In 2011, it is leading. In 2017, it's lagging. So it doesn't really, I don't know why it's that way and then that way, but.
And we are using 3 months moving average for.
Ondan mı acaba?
Because,
Onu düşündüm.
because,
çünkü burada bunun lead etmesi lazım, like değil.
Ama öteki türlü çok yani çok zigzaglı bir, yani search verisi çok böyle garip bir veri. Smooth
Ölçek
bir veri
meselesi
değil yani.
işte, o search'lar yüze ölçekli, o yüzden oluyor aslında da. Neyse, evet. Hangi dönemde tutuyor, hangisinde tutmuyor, bakıp onu tartışabiliriz. Doğru, unuttum.
Ama evet, yani hocanın dediği o makasların açıklığına, yani o döneme spesifik bir şey de olabilir. Yani ona bakmak lazım.
I think Atakan wants to ask a question. Maybe we should give him an opportunity.
So, who else?
Your microphone is not switched on, I think. Or, oh yeah, we can't hear you. Atakan, seni duyamıyoruz. Mikrofonunu açar mısın?
I think it's on, but still we cannot hear him.
Onda Bluetooth problemi de muhtemelen. Yazıp sorabilirsin, evet. Yazayım diyor. Nereye yazacak ben görmüyorum. Anıl görecek herhalde.
Chat.
Bunda chat çıkmadı.
Mikrofon açık görünüyor ama ses gelmiyor. Çok ilginç.
What about the career platforms like Kariyer.net? They, I mean, in the United States, they also use those type of searches or direct data they get from Monster.com or, I mean, in Turkey, I know Betam, Bahçeşehir bir şey, toplumsal araştırmalar merkezi mi? Anyways, they have an agreement with Kariyer.net. So they get Kariyer.net data for job searches or uploading CVs, and they predict unemployment. And as far as I remember, I haven't checked recently whether the agreement continues, but they get very good results as well. But for that, it's a private data, and you have to make either pay or, I mean, yeah.
Make the agreement.
Yeah.
Google Trends is also open to everyone. Even you can do it. With Kariyer.net, you have to have an agreement with the provider. Okay. So you are going to Google Kariyer.net. Anyways, that's a keyword. Kariyer.net is a keyword. Yeah, we can add that.
Yeah.
İş ilanları falan gibi bir anahtar kelime. The thing with correlate, it was going to be great because then we would have used this machine learning for both categorizing and selecting the keywords based on their association with my variable, and then use them to do the regression. But this correlate function is discontinued, so I just have to come up with the keywords out of, at the top of my head. So that that was a bummer. I mean, it could have been better if we had to correlate.
So that's why Varian and Choi and others, or in their papers, they have much better results because they used the actual data and correlate function. So when one searches something, it gives all the correlated results with that search, and using all the list of queries, the technique picks the best ones to use in the prediction model. But then they stopped Google Correlate function or Google Correlate app a few years ago. So we're left with manual or guess sort of.
But our results are good. I wasn't this hopeful, in fact. So, that capturing that non-linear increase there, it's worked out nicely. Don't say variance is better. We are doing just fine.
So who else? What else?
Is there any more questions? Or Tuğçe wants to ask something. Tuğçe, your microphone needs to be turned on. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. While someone is searching something, your assumption is just like that. The one who is affected directly, right? So the others, maybe their friends or relatives, etc., these other people may lead to overestimation, right? Of the search volume. Am I right, Anıl hocam?
Right, but on the other hand, there is also potential underestimate. Even if you are unemployed, you might not be. You might not be searching for iş bulma duası, or
maybe you don't have internet.
Or yeah. So there are reasons to think that it would be overestimated and underestimated. So in the aggregate, we don't know, but that's the error part probably, right?
One more, the most, which is search. Google Trend score is 100, right?
Right.
This is the most search. And how many times search in a period of time? But what do you mean by index? So 50 times search, so it's Google Trend equals to 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is the highest score. So what do you mean by index? I couldn't understand.
So
depends
even
on the time periods. Pardon me, you go ahead.
If nothing is search, Google Trend score is 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by index?
So even if within a certain time period, you get 8 million searches, if that is the highest, Google Trends index value will be 100 for 8 million searches. If within that period, again, you get, in a different day, 4 million searches, half of the highest, then the index value would be 50, so on and so forth. Like relative to the highest value, they make this calculation and turn the search levels into an index. Lowest being either, I'm not sure, either being 0 or the lowest, or any values under a certain threshold. I'm not sure about that 0 part, but the maximum gets 100, and the others, with a ratio to that, it's an indexed figure then.
So you use just this index to get rid of huge figures, right?
Right.
These are just showing real figures. Okay.
Umut, yeah, access to internet, that's why young people have better access. That's a good point.
About that
Merve
point,
is saying something.
so about that point, I can say that, I mean, we started our data from, 2010,
11 January.
So,
no, two couple of observations before, you're right, 2010, yeah.
But Google Trends data actually starts from 2004, I guess. But the reason we got the data, we started the data from 2010, 11-ish, is that probably in Turkey between 2004 to 10, the internet penetration was somewhat lower, significantly lower actually. We don't get high quality, data in Google Trends. So that's why we started the data from 2010s or early 2010s. So that's a good point. If you don't have high enough or varied enough observations or searches, then you don't get a quality data there. Yeah.
What Merve is saying is also interesting. We can switch it back to volume, she says. I think Anıl is more familiar with those. I didn't try the supercharged or this glimpse thing.
I also didn't know that. Yeah, I don't know. I will check for sure. Google Trends supercharged glimpse.
Yeah, the link is there as well. Thanks.
There is another one, another Google app called Google Ngram. I'm writing it here, Google Ngram.
Where are you writing?
In
chat?
In chat, yeah. So that counts the keywords. Didn't. Oh, it's a direct reply to Merve. Sorry, she was the last person. Let me. Yeah. So you should check this. I mean, this is much more interesting. Maybe it gives you the frequency of keywords you're searching in the books ever published, like starting from 1800s or so, 1860 or so. So they have scanned all the books. Like Google basically has a database of all the books in PDF format.
We have to hack it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great actually. And you can search through that database in Ngram. And you can see, like, I sometimes play around like with words like Marx, Hayek, Friedman, Keynes, and fluctuations tell you a story actually. The heydays of leftism or Marxism and Keynesianism, how it goes. I mean, tells something. Not a lot of things, but it tells us something. So you should check Ngram app as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of potential here. Yesterday, Merve was talking about something interesting. She doesn't have the mic, but maybe she'll write a little bit about it. Just like the word counts that you mentioned, she was talking about the possibility of determining political stance using word counts, etc. So this sort of meta-analysis, the new form of research, has become really curious, interesting things that you would never think of with your conventional economist mind are coming up. Interesting area.
ENAC, Enflasyon Araştırma
Uh-huh.
Grubu. ENAC is using, they're using a nowcasting method actually. They're just getting the prices from hepsi burada, Migros, Sanal Market immediately, and they can see the immediate price changes, and they make a basket, for them. I mean, they don't share publicly, they don't share their method, but I know that
there are. We were talking to Selçuk maybe a month ago, Oya's husband, and he was the head of the mathematics department in 9 Eylül. Selçuk Demir. He was saying it is possible to collect information off those websites like sahibinden.com, hepsi burada, etc. So you don't have to ask the commercial company for cooperation. You can get it off their site using the appropriate coding and make use of that. We were talking about house prices, etc. And he is a mathematician, so he has the better resources to design these sorts of things. Yeah, the possibilities seem endless. It's exciting.